Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
We interacted for the first time when we got to work on a project together. We worked in an architectural firm, and I loved my work. We started talking afterward and hung out together with a group of friends. We would talk for hours, and as we were already attracted to each other, it took no time to develop feelings. We started dating, and within a couple of months, we moved in together. He was a very sweet-spoken and chivalrous man. We were a bit different in so many ways, but also shared so many similarities, so our relationship was quite fun. He was a very appreciative man who valued efforts and never failed to put in his own. I knew I was with the right person. Mentioning my mom is very important here. My mom belonged to a well-off family who had ditched her boyfriend just because she thought he was controlling and she deserved better. She had been in many different relationships, and after that, but none of them was long-lasting. She would dump her boyfriend for the silliest reasons and claim that no one ever matched her level of perfection. She was against my profession and told me that it was a cheap, low-paid job, and I should not even consider it when I was already enjoying a lavish lifestyle with her. She is a high-maintenance woman and looks like my eldest sister rather than my mom. When I informed her that I was in a relationship and wanted to move in with him, she, of course, asked about the guy. When she came to know that we were colleagues, she was disappointed and told me that a loser had met a loser. She told me that I could simply get a better guy and that she doesn't know why my taste was so cheap. I got married to my boyfriend after dating for around 2 years, and this disappointed my mom even more. She thought that I had lost all the chances of getting a better man. My husband and my mom had met only a few days before the wedding, and I felt like my mom's complaints against him had decreased. As they met more after our wedding, they actually got along so well that it pleased me because my mom did not criticize him now. As the time passed, my husband's inclination towards my mom increased a lot, and it was very awkward for me. They would both compliment each other, and this made me feel non-existent sometimes. One fine day, when my mom was visiting us, she told my husband to give up on his job and join her dad's company. To my surprise, my husband agreed. I tried to talk to my husband after my mom had left, but she was too stubborn to listen and told me that he was not dumb like me, who worked in cheap firms when my mom owned so much. I was devastated. I had to stop my husband because this was wrong in so many ways. We had a great job and earned well, which made us independent. And how could he trust my mom that much? My mom had never worked an hour in her life and knew nothing about my granddad's office. She had just simply put forward an invite, and my husband was all set to resign. I told him that if he tried to do that, I would tell our boss about his corruption, falsifications, and how he had manipulated some of the company's clients. He was shocked and asked me how I knew about that. I told him that I was his wife and was with him long before we got married, so I knew much more than he would think. He told me that if I tried to do that, he would divorce me. I asked him how he thought that he would get a job in my granddad's office if he divorced me, and it made him speechless. My husband tried to convince me later on and told me that it was for both of us and our kids, if we had any. He told me that whatever my granddad had, it was my mom's and ultimately mine. I asked him if he had married me for the properties I was getting. I told him that he could own my granddad's office and run his business once the business had descended to me. But for now, he had to stop thinking about my mom's proposal. I told him that my mom had not even talked about it again, and he was just going crazy. I went to see my mom and told her that she had created a mess by putting forward such a proposal. She told me that it was for my good, as I never deserved a person working in a cheap firm. I told her that she had to respect my profession and that what my husband does is none of her business. I told her that she could enjoy her status and leave us alone because we were going very well before she interfered in our lives. She told me that she was not able to change my man, but I should let her change that man's profession at least. I told her that it was impossible and left. My husband had contacted her again to ask if the proposal was intact because he was interested in joining my granddad's office. My mom told him that he was welcome any day, any time. He told me this to boast how kind his mother-in-law was to him. I told him that I was not in favor of his decision and it might ruin our relationship. He told me that I could not understand it then, but would see things clearly in the coming years. I told him that he was greedy and my mom's lifestyle had blindfolded him. He was not ready to listen to anyone, and this made me reconsider my decision to spend my whole life with him. I told my husband that if he did not change his mind, I would divorce him and would never look back again. He told me that I had gone insane and could not see him succeed. He also told me that I was afraid to see him rise in status because it would put me in a complex. I was shocked to listen to such things from him. I told him that that was it, and I was not staying with him anymore. To be honest, I was just pressurizing him so that he would stop depending on my mom, who was already dependent on my granddad. But all he could see was his non-existent bright future. A few days passed, and my mom's maid called me to deliver some news. She told me that my husband had gone to see my mom and told her that I had threatened to divorce him if he thought about accepting my mom's proposal. Her maid told me that my mom was glad to hear that and told my husband that if he would divorce me, she would not only grant him a position in my granddad's office, but would also gift him a piece of property and the latest car. Her maid told me that she was very much concerned about me and thought it was her duty to inform me, but begged me to hide her name. I promised her that she would stay unharmed. I knew what I had to do to teach both of them a lesson. I went to see my mom, or let us say confront my mom, and told her whatever I knew about her conspiracy. She did not even react and told me that it was for my own good. She told me that I was stuck with someone who was just after my status and did not even care if I left him. She told me how I could stay with a person who was already ready to divorce me for a position in the office, a piece of property, and a car. I told her that it was her who had manipulated him just to prove herself right. She told me that I deserved better, and once I broke up with that loser, she would find me a better man. I left her place immediately. I went straight to my granddad's office, and I told him the whole story. I told him how my mom was playing games with my life and was not even guilty. He called my mom in front of me and told her that she was the one who was a loser because she had been confused all her life and was not even letting me settle down. He told her that if she tried to do anything else, he would transfer everything he owned to me, and she would have to spend her life on the road. As he hung up, I told my dad that I was not going to stay with that man, as I had seen his real face. My granddad told me that he was going to support me with whatever decision I would make. As I had already dealt with my mom, it was now my husband's turn to be chilled down. I was constantly looking for proof all this time and behaved fine with him without letting him know what I was up to. I found a sufficient amount of evidence and represented them all in front of my boss. I told my boss that I doubted him for a long time, but was not able to find proof, and as soon as I had found it, I was right in front of him. My boss appreciated me and told me that he would take due action. I had already filed for divorce, as I could not tolerate this man anymore. My boss had informed the police, and he was arrested right away. He was furious when he came to know about what I had done, but the poor thing could do nothing. I didn't want to move back with my mom, so my granddad purchased an apartment for me and made sure to provide me with everything I needed. I kept working in that firm and was appreciated for being loyal to the company, and all thanks to my dumb ex-husband. NTA, you are definitely not the a-hole, but a hero. I mean, how chilled you were throughout the story and try to convince both of the parties, your husband and your mom, but I guess they underestimated you. For once, I thought your mom and ex-husband would succeed and you would have to surrender because they were all set to ditch you. But your plan changed the game, and in no time both of them were shown their place. Kudos to you. OP's mom and her ex-husband were a-holes and was so unbearable. I cannot even put them into words. Her mom had spent all her life confused and switching men, so how was she so sure that she was going to fix her daughter's life? She was living on her dad's money and was offering jobs to others like, wow, ex-husband was dumb to the next level. He could simply stay with OP and get his fair portion, but was too stupid and greedy to wait.
Next story.
I am now 22, male. When I was 19, I found out that my mom, 39 now, had an affair and got pregnant with twins, 2 boys. I was hurt by this because I always had a different image of who my mom was, and I saw my parents' marriage as the perfect one. She left my dad and married her AP, who was her boss. I have to acknowledge that even if she was under no legal obligation of housing me, she attempted several times to make me be a part of her family, meet her husband, spend time with them, join for holidays, and even invited me the last Christmas to go to Austria with them, her husband's native country. But I declined every time because I just don't feel comfortable with it. I don't want to meet her husband or her sons, but she seems not to understand and texts me almost every day to know how I am. Last year, I told her that it'd be better if we just go to NC because every time we meet, I hurt her. And she hurts me because when I look at her face, I see nothing but her betrayal. But even though she and her husband keep insisting, they send me gifts, cards, texts, etc. So I haven't seen my mom in 6 months. I don't usually reply to her messages. I love my mom very much, but I can't just separate her betrayal from her new family. I've tried to understand why she did what she did. I know she owes me no explanation, but I've opened up and asked her if she was mistreated by my dad, or if she was unhappy or sexually unsatisfied, which I know is an important thing. I've asked her these things to see her affair differently and see it as her happiness, and maybe I want to be a part of that happiness too. But she just refuses to talk about it. So I told her once, fine, if you refuse, all I can see is a horny woman who didn't give a shit about her marriage, nor what her son thought. It hurts how she betrayed my dad, who was perfect husband and dad, as far as I know, but she doesn't want to talk about it. My birthday was just 2 weeks ago. I didn't invite her and didn't know that she was going to show up. She came with a car as a gift from my family, and she seemed surprised about the party. She asked to stay, and I said, okay. When everything was over, she was seemingly upset and started asking me why I hate her. I don't hate her, but it's just hard to be around her if I don't understand everything and come to my mind. And then she stated that she wants me to be in her life. So I said, you want to have a relationship with me again? Fine. Divorce your husband and disown your sons. This was, of course, a joke. I'm not expecting her to do it. I don't even want her to do it, and I know she won't do it because she doesn't have to do it. She started crying and called her husband to pick her up. Her husband arrived, the first time I met him, and called me TA for being so rude to my mom. Everyone, even my BF, calls me TA. NTA because you told her time and time again that you don't want a relationship with her, and she didn't listen to you. How can she expect you to be okay with the situation when she refuses to acknowledge what happened? She had no business in your party because you didn't invite her. She's now realizing her actions have consequences, and she wasn't ready to realize it. If you can seek professional help to cope healthy with all this, hang in there, OP.
Next story.
I a 26-year-old female, am 7 months pregnant with my first baby and happen to be horribly allergic to peanuts. I've gone into anaphylactic shock a few times, mostly when I was younger. My husband has been very understanding of this to the point that there are little to no nuts that have ever entered our house, especially with the baby on the way. This was completely fine until my husband's sister lost her job due to COVID and moved in with us, mostly staying at her boyfriend's place and the guest bedroom, but we still had an extra person. When moving in, she agreed and understood my allergy no peanut butter, peanut oil, or peanuts in general, which admittedly can be a big lifestyle change. You'd be shocked by how much stuff I can't have. The problem arose when I began to find tins of mixed nuts in our shared pantry. Peanut butter cracker wrappers in the guest bedroom when I went to clean her filthy mess, and freaked each time, making my husband pick it up for me. My husband had told me he talked to her about this, but it still continued to happen. I would have to wipe down the counters before I made food, avoid the certain sides of the pantry, and generally tiptoe around my own house. Call me paranoid, but I prefer that than potentially miscarrying. I confronted her about it when I noticed that she was very obviously eating a handful of peanuts in her hand and then going around touching everything. I told her to stop, clean it up, and wipe down the things that she touched, and to throw out all the peanut foods unless she wanted to be kicked out. She freaked on me and said that I had barely noticed and was probably overreacting, saying that I had no right to kick her out since I was just a stay-at-home wannabe mom. I was pretty upset about this and told her to get out, stay with her boyfriend or something while trying to stay away from her peanut-riddled hands. She said, fine, and started to pack up while screaming at me. She had even said that I can take husbands, but not normal ones, and a variety of unsavory names. Admittedly, the joke was funny, and I'd heard it from close friends before. We even call our little guy Peanut. But by that point, I was offended and crying, just telling her to leave. When she finally did, she called my husband and told him to deal with me, which caused a fight between the two of us. He said that I had EpiPens and that I had reacted severely when I was in my teens, that I was most likely over it by then and to get over it myself. He's now staying at a hotel. So, aita? Husband called me later and apologized for lashing out. He and his sister are twins, and talked about how close the two were, so seeing her kicked out without warning was upsetting. The rest of the convo was just him trying to back up what he said and offering to pay for me to stay in a hotel until his sister got back up on her feet if I'm really that uncomfy about her, and that I don't get how hard things are. I got angry at him and packed a bag, so I'm currently at my parents' house. My mother also has a severe allergy, while my dad screams at my husband over the phone in the next room. His entire excuse is that they've been together longer. I've already begun to contact my lawyer and allergist. Thanks to everyone for the advice. Sister-in-law and husband have moved back into the house. NTA, the EpiPen can be a lifesaver, but only if used in time. It does not protect your unborn child from the effects on your body beforehand, though. The stress on your heart and body already due to pregnancy will be exacerbated and can cause you to go into preterm labor. And that's the best outcome if you go into anaphylactic shock. It's time to reevaluate your relationship with your husband if he's going to be this flippant about something that's literally life or death.